Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 13th of March 2013. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Valve distances itself from the Xi3 piston, claiming it is not an official Steam box. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 to get microtransactions. PlayStation 4 will outpower most PCs for years to come, claims Just Cause developer. And Dad hacks Donkey Kong so his daughter can play as a girl. Valve has been swift to react to the reports of the Xi3 piston and the criticism that it's received as regards to its specifications and its price point by claiming that, in fact, Valve has actually nothing to do with it whatsoever. Doug Lombardi spoke to Eurogamer on the subject and said that Valve began some exploratory work with Xi3 last year, but currently has no involvement in any product of theirs. There was, of course, the widespread belief that the Xi3 piston would be the first in a wave of Steam boxes essentially farmed out to third-party companies, but Valve now appears to be claiming that it has nothing to do with it whatsoever. So, this is an interesting situation, is it not? Because this is a nice and quick reaction to what we were talking about yesterday. News came out about the Xi3 piston and the actual pre-order price, as well as the technical specs, and then swiftly Valve suddenly pops out of the woodwork and says, no, that's not a Steam box at all, and we have absolutely nothing to do with it. This is very, very odd, because everything had pointed to yes. Now, you could try and blame the media all you like for spinning it out of proportion, but at the end of the day, the piston itself was shown at CES 2 months ago. And since then, there's been the opportunity for Valve to come out and basically say, this really has nothing to do with us. Now, the media jumped on the idea that it did. And it made sense when you think about it, because they never denied it. Xi3 at no point ever said, this is not the Steam box and we are not working with Valve. They were happy to ride that particular hype train without clarifying the situation. Digging into it a little bit further, a statement from Jason A. Sullivan, founder and president of the Xi3 Corporation, said, "We reaffirm the fact that we received an investment from Valve Corporation, as we previously disclosed during the 2013 CES trade show, and we did so with Valve's written permission. Secondly, we were asked to build a product specifically for Valve, and both companies showcased this product, the Piston console, in their respective booths in CES 2013. Now, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So, he was speaking to HeraldOnline.com, and he went on to say, then during a meeting with Valve at CES, Gabe Newell personally asked me that we not disclose additional information about our relationship with Valve. We have honored that request and will continue to do so. That said, there are other items we need to cover. For example, the assumption of many in the media has been that Piston is the official Steam box. We've never said that, and never has Valve. That has not changed. But just because Valve may not currently have any involvement with any product of ours, doesn't mean that such an involvement won't happen in the future." This is silly. Let's not blame the media for this. You called it the bloody Piston. You called it the Piston. What the hell was anyone supposed to think? You disclosed that there was an investment from Valve Corporation. You also disclosed that you were asked to build a product specifically for Valve, and both companies showcased the product, the Piston console, at CES 2013. That is a direct quote from you, the CEO of the company. So you don't then get to turn around and say, well, the media spun the assumption. Nobody really believed this was the official Steam box console. They thought it was one in a wave of potential models that were going to be released, because our understanding of the Steam box project up to this point, based on the very limited and nebulous information provided by Valve, is that this is a combined hardware effort that involves both a system produced by Valve at some point which will run Linux, and systems produced by a variety of third-party hardware companies. Gabe Newell in this interview was describing 3 different levels of Steam box, as it were. So it would be right to assume, one would think, that the Piston, especially considering its bloody name, would be the first Steam box and that Valve actually had something to do with it. What the hell were people supposed to expect? Yeah, Valve backed us and Valve invested us and blah blah blah. Oh yeah, we got nothing to do with it. What? If I were a cynical individual, not of course that I would be, then I would say that Valve put out this statement now, rather than 2 months ago, because it suddenly realized that the hype train had derailed because the specs on this thing are garbage. This is not a good value piece of kit under any possible definition of the term. And it seems to me very convenient that Valve would decide to say, oh yeah, we got nothing to do with that now. They had a 2-month period where they could have said that. Oh, everyone has been running with the notion that the Xi3 piston is the Steam box, or at least it is the first Steam box of a variety of different potential Steam boxes. And it is, to some degree, an unofficial Steam box, but all that just means it's a bloody PC. And any PC is a Steam box, essentially. It doesn't sound like this was designed for Steam at all. It doesn't sound like it was worked on by Valve in any respect, which is exactly the opposite of the perception that was given by saying, yes, we're presenting this product in conjunction with Valve and so on and so forth. Now, I've got to say, Valve is responsible for quite a lot of this misinformation. They have this thing where they just don't talk about stuff. And it's really quite frustrating. It leaves a lot of speculation going, and I have a feeling they do it on purpose because it generates a lot of press for them. And it's nice to have this mystery company, and, you know, it's like the bloody Charlie and the Chocolate Factory scenario, right? What is inside the factory? Are the little Oompa Loompas making Half-Life 3? Does Gabe Newell, in fact, drink from the river of chocolate? Who the hell knows? But whatever the case, this is just a goddamn mess that has resulted in not giving out enough bloody information, and I don't believe that Xi3 had any intention of clarifying it until they were absolutely forced to. Because, hey, what a wonderful association that is. A company that previously we had absolutely no idea about suddenly gets a bunch of publicity because apparently they're part of the Steambox project, where, in fact, they aren't at all, and this machine has literally nothing to do with it. Oh, wonderful. Great. Yeah, you definitely don't have an excuse to buy the bloody thing now. Call of Duty Black Ops 2 now includes microtransactions along with the macrotransactions of the $15 map packs. This has been rolled out across Xbox Live and includes a selection of small cosmetic additions to the game, which includes the $2 personalization pack, which includes a new weapon camo, a calling card, and 3 reticules. And they are also offering for $1 a pack of national flag calling cards, as well as a $2 extra slot pack, which gives you more creator class slots and space for more emblems, films, and screenshots. Treyarch has also released Nuketown 2025 for free across Xbox, which means, of course, that the pre-order map is now open to everybody, which I don't really see anyone complaining about too much. I mean, why would you complain about more people on your pre-order map? No, I mean, it's been long enough. That game's been out for 5 or 6 months now, so I think it's a pretty reasonable period of pre-order exclusivity on Nuketown 2025, which is in itself a very silly map. Now, as much as I would love to just go ballistic at Activision and Treyarch, and I know that's what a lot of you want me to do, I'm not going to do that, and the reason is that I don't actually have a problem with this at all. The purchase of little cosmetic microtransaction packs, especially considering that they're not all that expensive, is an entirely reasonable way of continuing to monetize a game that has been out for a reasonable period of time. In fact, I would really hope that this is actually successful for them. And it's way more successful than the map packs are, because hopefully it will then dissuade them from releasing those in the future. I know, that's pie in the sky, there's no way they're going to do that, considering they sell more than enough of these $15 map packs and continue to milk people over the course of the year for double the price of the actual game. But it would be lovely, would it not, if maps came out for free and they decided to change their business model to sell cosmetic microtransactions after the fact. I suppose the question is, can we trust Activision, Treyarch, and Infinity Ward to actually pull this off properly? Would they be willing to stick with cosmetic only and utility only? Or would they end up deliberately gimping stuff? Would they end up selling power? Who knows? As regards to what it currently includes, I think it's entirely reasonable, and there's nothing wrong with releasing these kind of things after launch. You know, it's been out for 6 months now. This is not something that's just popping up on day one and demanding extra cash. It's a nice little thing that you can buy if you so desire. I'm actually kind of surprised that they didn't sell shortcuts. This is something that I believe Call of Duty has resisted doing so far, whereas Battlefield was happy to sell a shortcut pack which essentially unlocked everything for you at a fairly significant price tag, I might add. It doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I would put past Activision, but they haven't done it. And I guess they think the backlash would be too much from that. Surprising, really, when you think about it, but hey. Linus Blumberg, the CTO and co-founder of Avalanche Studios, better known as the guys that brought you the Tropical Island Mayhem simulator Just Cause 2, has said that the PlayStation 4 will outpower most PCs for years to come. He says it's always very exciting with a new console cycle for a number of reasons, and the consoles desperately need a boost since having been overtaken in terms of performance by PCs several years ago and are also losing market share to mobile platforms. He went on to say that the PS4 will not only be a very powerful gaming machine from a hardware perspective, but it will also be a social tool and integrated marketplace more akin to the successful mobile devices. It's the best of all worlds in a way: great performance for demanding high-end gaming, good social ecosystem and connectivity, and integrated business marketplace. For Avalanche Studios, he says, as an open-world games developer, this is super exciting and opens up many new opportunities. Unfortunately, he didn't really go into all that much detail as regards to the power of the system, only mentioning that the 8GB of RAM means that the PlayStation 4 will outpower most PCs for years to come. Now, of course, we do know this is 8 gigs of GDDR5, which is very unusual, something that we don't see in the PC architecture, but it remains to be seen what kind of abilities, if any, that will actually give the system to begin with. But you know, I'm kind of excited about this for many, many different reasons. I'm a PC gamer at heart, but what's really important to me is that we have a consistently competitive marketplace. PCs have got to be competitive with consoles and vice versa. If any of them fall behind, then what happens is that stifles competition and that stifles innovation. This is terrible news for the gaming industry. That means things slow down. That means hardware development for PC slows down. We don't get the advancement that we are used to, and we also don't get the advancement on console side of things. You know, what happens if PCs just stagnated over the last couple of years? Would have probably meant that the console generation would have just gone on a little bit longer. Now PCs are outstripping consoles so badly that it's like, oh god, we better catch up, especially since people are kind of bored of this current generation and are switching to either PC or playing stuff on mobile device, and the last thing we want to do is lose core gamers to Angry Birds Space. So this is a good thing for gaming in general, especially with PCs as well, and I've spoken at length about how I hope that porting from the PlayStation 4 due to its architecture to the PC, as well as the comparative performance abilities of a mid to sort of high-end-ish core gamer rig, versus, say, the PlayStation 3, which uses some pretty gnarly architecture, which is difficult to port from. Hell, it's difficult to code for in general. It's good that we're getting this, and the more and more developers that express excitement over this console, the better it is, because this is not exactly something that developers really sung praises about when it came to the Wii U, right? How much positive feedback did we hear from them? Not a lot, you know? Most of it prior to release was, oh yeah, this thing's really slow and doesn't work very well. And up to this point, we have not had many games for that system, you know, so much for the kind of stopgap of the generation, really. My Wii U's been sitting downstairs being used as a Netflix machine, and it doesn't play anything else. You know, I've played Zombie U on it, and I've played Tekken, and that's kind of like it. I'm just waiting for the next big game to come out, which I believe will be Monster Hunter towards the end of the month. Thank God. Something to play on my Wii U. But the PlayStation 4, there's a lot of excitement expressed about it, and a lot of good games that seem to be lined up for it. So this is cool, man. I'm just hoping that something just as cool comes from Microsoft as well, because it would be so good to be riding the wave of an exciting new gaming generation. I am up for that. I've had enough of this gaming generation. It can go to hell. Let's move on to the next one, and let's see what surprises are in store. And finally, something nice for a change. Yeah, why not? Let's go for something pleasant, especially when it comes to the subject of women or indeed girls in video games, which has been a pretty bad subject to cover over the last couple of days. Nothing's really been going right there. A little heartwarming story here. A fellow by the name of Mike Mika, who makes video games by trade, has a 3-year-old daughter named Pauline, and she'd been playing some classic NES games and was disappointed that she was unable to play a female character in Donkey Kong. So what Mike did was he actually went into the ROM itself and redid the sprites and the positions of the characters. So Mario was the one captured by Donkey Kong, and Pauline has been put into the game. He also changed a few sprites around on the items and things that were in the level. which is quite fantastic as far as I can see. What a really cool thing to do. Brings up a nice point, by the way. This 3-year-old girl had previously played Super Mario Bros. 2, which allows you to play as the princess, who is in fact one of the best characters in the game, if not the best character in the game, because that floating ability is goddamn overpowered. Anyway, she naturally assumed, having been able to play a girl in one game, that she should be able to play a girl in another game. And that really wasn't the case. And it's funny, really, when you think about it, how many games these days actually allow you to use a female avatar, as opposed to just using the default male or indeed default female, depending on what the game actually requires in terms of its plot. I think it makes sense to limit you in terms of games that are very story-driven if you're trying to build a character. Like, if you were to play all of Gears of War as, say, Anya instead of Marcus Phoenix, the story really wouldn't work in the same way. And that's the problem that you're faced with. But it's funny because back in the day, there really wasn't so much story to worry about. You didn't have to worry about these complex characters because they didn't exist. Let's go back to tropes versus women. The complaint, of course, being that women are used as damsels in distress, that are very much objects to be rescued, and little more than that. But the heroes are pretty much the same, that they don't have a character either. They are simply there to go through the level and rescue the princess at the end. That's like their sole purpose. It's simplistic nonsense. And it's funny that there really aren't all that many old school games that really allow you to play as a female instead of a male character. But these days, I suppose it really depends on the game. I'm trying to think through recent examples. Obviously, RPGs allow you to play as males or females, but things like first-person shooters, third-person shooters generally don't unless there's some kind of major character customization involved, which usually would involve a multiplayer mode, not a story-driven single-player campaign. Sports games depends on the sport, you know? If you're going to do something like rally driving, you're probably not going to find all that many female drivers. F1, same kind of thing. And then if you look at NASCAR, you're not going to find it there either. Football? Nope. Basketball? Nope. Tennis, probably, is the most successful sports franchise, I would think, that allows you to play as a female character. There's a surprising lack of choice, actually, when you think about it. I mean, hell, fighting games have been representing pretty well for females, gotta say. There's plenty of fighting games with lots of good female characters in them. Some with, well, let's just say, excessively underclothed female characters, ridiculously proportioned female characters. That is unfortunately the way of things, but there are also plenty more where it's quite reasonable and respectable. And then, of course, you've got the various indie platformers that are kind of reliant on, once again, building a story around a character, but I don't know, maybe there is an underrepresentation, or just a lack of choice, you know? Unless the character is absolutely integral to some kind of development or integral to the story, then, as far as I'm concerned, you should have a fair amount of choice as to how you want to actually present that character. If you want to be male, female, androgynous, a tentacle, I can give a damn. I guess it's unfortunate the kid doesn't like Saints Row, eh? Alright folks, there's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Just an FYI and a reminder, I'll be flying off to Dallas on the 14th of March for MLG. I will be back, I think, on the Monday, so there'll probably be a couple of days where the channel's not really putting anything out. If you are coming to Dallas to go and watch the League of Legends tournament, or perhaps StarCraft 2 and PlanetSide, which will be the two things that I'm going to be commentating there, then please do come and say hi. I'll most likely be having my usual signing session there, just like all the other commentators, which is usually a good excuse just to come down and say hi. So if you want to say hi, by all means, it's fairly obvious where I am. Fairly obvious who I am, I'm loud, and I'm British, and there's not all that many of those since we are lacking Apollo this time around. So, singular British representation at MLG on the StarCraft side of things. As far as I'm aware, Joe Miller and D-Man aren't showing up, so I might actually be the only British commentator there. Representing what's what. I'll see you next time.